잠시 후 2시부터 이곳에서 심포지움을 시작할 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 예, 그럼 행사 시작에 앞서서 몇 가지 안내 말씀을 드리고 행사 바로 진행할 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 지금 행사장에는 한글 자료집과 영문 자료집, 워크북이 한글과 영문 두 종류가 준비가 되어 있습니다. 혹시 영문 워크북이나 한글 워크북이 더 필요하신 분들은 안내 데스크에 요청을 하시면 받으실 수 있고요. 그다음에 지금 여러분께서 사용하고 계시는 통역기는 꼭 이 장소를 나가실 때 반납을 하시고 들어오실 때 다시 받아서 들어오셔야 됩니다. 굉장히 고가의 장비고 분실이 되면 안 돼서요. 그래서 여러분들이 이 행사장 밖으로 나가실 때는 받으신 곳에서 꼭 반납을 해주시고 들어오실 때 다시 받아서 사용을 해주시면 되겠습니다. 그리고 어제 숙박을 하시고 오늘 주무시지 않고 나가시는 분들은 원래 체크아웃 시간이 2시까지였다고 합니다. 그래서 어제 숙박을 하셨는데 오늘 주무시지 않고 가셔야 되는 분들은 지금 잠깐 나가서 데스크에 키를 반납해 주시면 고맙겠습니다. 그리고 마지막 안내를 드리겠습니다. 저희가 하고 있는 이 행사가 모두 인터넷으로 생중계가 되고 있습니다. YMCA TV 채널을 통해서 여기 지금 스크린에 보시면 주소가 나오는데 이쪽을 통해서도 여러분들이 보고 계시는 이 심포지움 행사를 다 보실 수 있고요. 그 다음에 세계평화대회 공식 홈페이지 주소는 위에 있습니다. 세계평화대회 공식 홈페이지를 통해서도 역시 생중계가 되고 있습니다. 그리고 세계평화대회 페이스북 페이지를 통해서도 생중계가 되고 있으니까요. 주변에 혹시 계신 분들이나 이 자리에 참석하지 못하신 분들께 이 사실을 좀 알려주시고 이곳에 같이 참여하고 계시진 않지만 같이 이 행사를 지켜보실 수 있도록 안내를 해주시면 고맙겠습니다. 예, 지금 입장하시는 분들이 계시긴 한데 워낙 또 이제 길게 오랫동안 저희가 진행해야 되는 프로그램이어서 바로 시작을 할 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 어떻게 점심 식사 맛있게 하셨습니까? 네. 맛이 없었는 것 같네요. 점심 식사 맛있게 하셨습니까? 네, 고맙습니다. 그러면 지금부터 심포지움 행사를 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 2시부터 6시 30분까지 이곳에서 진행이 될 예정이고요. 오늘 이 심포지움을 진행해 주실 분은 장윤재 교수님이시고 한국와인체 전국연맹 실행이사이시기도 하시고 그 다음에 또 이화여대 교수로 재직 중이십니다. 여러분께 장윤재 교수님을 소개해드리고 큰 박수로 강단으로 모시겠습니다. 예.
방금 소개받은 장윤재입니다. Since we have good simultaneous translators, I'll speak in Korean because there are more Korean audience than the international speakers. 한국어로 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 방금 소개해 주신 대로 저는 지금 현재 이화여대 기독교학과에서 서광선 선생님의 뒤를 이어서 조직신학을 가르치고 있습니다. YMCA 목적과 사업위원회 위원장과 실행이사를 맡고 있는데 오늘은 제가 과거 NCCK에서 통일위원회 간사를 맡으면서 제가 조선 그리스도교도 연맹과 함께 남북 교류, 교회 교류, 민의 교류를 담당했던 기억이 나고, 또 95년 희년 사업을 통해서 통일을 위한 민의 참여를 했던, 젊음을 불살랐던 그런 때가 떠올라서 감개무량합니다. 오늘 자료집에 있겠습니다만은 이제부터 우리가 진행될 이 오후 내내의 주제는 동아시아와 한반도 역사 화해 치료 상생을 위한 평화의 문화라는 주제로 이제부터 여러 발표를 듣고 질의응답을 갖는 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 이 오후에 여러 가지 얘기가 있겠습니다만 가장 중요한 열쇠말, 키워드는 민의 참여가 아닌가 싶습니다. 다양한 발제를 듣더라도 오늘은 우리가 어떻게 우리 민이 평화를 이루는 주인이 되고 주체가 될 것인가 하는 그 문제의식을 가지고 이 다양한 발제들을 듣고 이야기해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 제가 생각하기에 평화라고 하는 것은 그 당국자들 정부에게 맡기기에는 너무 큰일인 것 같습니다. 분단의 제도적이고 물리적인 장벽을 걷어내는 것도 중요하지만 통일은 결국 사람과 사람이 만나서 새롭게 삶을 살자고 하는 거기 때문에 사람과 사람이 만나는 거, 마음이 하나 되는 거, 치유되는 거, 그리고 마음이 서로 합하는 것, 그것보다 더 중요한 일이 어디 있겠습니까? 그래서 오늘 오후 내내는 어떻게 우리가 민의 참여를 라고 하는 관점에서 전 세계 다양한 곳의 분쟁 지역에서 민의 참여로 이루어진 평화의 역사를 돌아보고 새로운 통찰을 이끌어내는 그런 모임으로 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 우리 한국에서는 이 민을 백성이라고도 하지만 한자로는 민초라고도 합니다. 번역이 어려울지 모르겠지만 grassroots 정도가 어떨까 싶은 생각이 드는데요. 한국인들이 가장 좋아하는 시인 중에 김수영 시인이 있는데 그 중에 이 풀에 관한 시가 하나 있어서 그 중에 핵심 부분만 제가 읽어보겠습니다. 통역이 잘 되면 좋겠습니다만, 풀이 눕는다. 바람보다 더 빨리 눕는다. 바람보다 더 빨리 울고 바람보다 먼저 일어난다. 바람보다 늦게 울어도 바람보다 먼저 웃는다. 한국인들이 가장 좋아하는 시 중에 하나입니다. 김수영 시인의 시인데 지금 평화의 바람이 불고 있습니다만은 그 바람보다 먼저 눕고 그 바람보다 먼저 일어나고 바람이 불지 않아도 그 자리에서 그 들판에서 온 들판의 생명을 지키고 있는 존재가 저는 풀이고 그것이 민초고 그것이 그래스루트고 오늘은 바로 그 민초가 이 통일과 화해의 주인이 되어 어떻게 한반도와 세계 전체에서 그 일을 이끌어나가는 여건이 될까 하는 것을 토론하는 시간으로 이해하고 함께 진행해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 오늘 발제자들을 소개하기 전에 먼저 전체의 시간 구조를 말씀드리면 이제 오늘 앞에 네 부분의 발표자가 있고 이어서 5분의 토론자가 있습니다. 오늘 제가 무려 9분이나 소개를 해야 되는 막중한 임무를 갖고 있는데요. 앞에 네 부분의 발표자들에게는 정확하게 25분씩만 드리겠습니다. 제가 이 만자를 강조했는데 이제 오늘 제 역할은 여기서 굉장히 저승사자처럼 시간을 어기시게 되면 마이크를 뺏고 딴 분에게 넘기는 그런 아주 스트릭한 타임키퍼 역할을 잘 하도록 하겠습니다. 그런데 중간에 2번 휴식이 있겠습니다. 발표자 4분 가운데 2분 먼저 듣고 휴식하고 나머지 2분 듣고 휴식하고 이어서 토론자 5분은 한꺼번에 이어 토론한 다음에 여러분에게 약 20분 동안 질의응답하는 시간을 나중에 한꺼번에 드리도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 질문하는 방식은 쪽지에 적으시는 방식이 아니라 손을 드시면은 그 무선 마이크를 갖다 드릴 테니까 메모하셨다가 나중에 끝나기 전 한 30분 동안 질의응답하는 시간에서 충분히 내용을 소화해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 자, 그러면 네 분의 발표자들 어디 계십니까? 좀 단상으로 올라와 주시겠습니까? 오늘 이 자리에 독일의 게하트 라인 선생님, 아일랜드의 존스턴 맥메스터 선생님, 남아공의 사로지니 나다르 선생님, 미국의 맥스 에디거 선생님 네 분을 모시겠습니다. 여러분 박수로 환영해 주시겠습니다. 자, 그러면 먼저 첫 번째 발표자를 여러분께 소개해 드리겠습니다. 지금 막 올라가서 앉고 계신데요. 게하르트 라인 선생님이시고 독일에서 오셨습니다. 언론인이시고 동독 슈투트가르트에서 라디오 특파원을 역임하셨고 또 남아프리카 공화국 요하네스버그에서 특파원을 경험하셨습니다. 여러분에게 한글과 영어로 된 발전문이 주어져 있는데 German Experience, 독일의 경험, 이런 주제로 이제 말씀해 주시겠습니다. 여러분 게하르트 라인 선생님에게 따뜻한 박수로 보내주시기 바랍니다.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please allow me a little personal word. I'm a journalist, but I am the children of the ecumenical movement as well. As a very young guy, I was a youth delegate at the General Assembly of the World Council of Churches in New Delhi in 1961, far away. Since then, my life changed dramatically, and I cannot live without the horizon of the ecumenical idea. Just to give a small understanding of my biography. Now to the German experience. The German people first surrendered in 1933 to the enemy. Workers, petty bourgeois, scientists, businessmen, artists, theologians, professors of all kinds capitulated to a nationalist, racist, anti-Semitic movement and his Führer Adolf Hitler. That was the enemy, and make no mistake, the majority of Germans adored Hitler. That was our disaster. Hitler promised an empire that should exist for 1,000 years. It ended after 12 years. It led to the Second World War with millions of women and men and children dead. In 1945, the second capitulation followed. The Germans were freed by Russians and American and British and French soldiers. The 8th of May 1945 was not a defeat. It was, in my mind, a liberation from the enemy within. For that liberation, we had to pay a high price. Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill divided Germany in zones. The American, the British, the French zone built together what we later called West Germany, and then the Federal Republic of Germany. The Russian zone became East Germany, and then the Democratic Republic of Germany, the GDR. Germany was divided. One people, two states, as a result of the World War that Germany was guilty of. Under the rules of the Western Allies, West Germany developed as a more or less liberal society with freedom of the press, freedom of movement, freedom of business, freedom of education. West Germany prospered in relatively few years after the war into a kind of rich country. East Germany, under the rule of the Soviet Union, could enjoy a social-minded government, but not freedom of the press, no freedom of movement, no freedom of business. As a result of that, hundreds of thousands, maybe 1 million, women, men, and children left the GDR. Good educated, skilled doctors, engineers, laborers. The border between East and West was more or less open, but the heavy losses of manpower had a terrible damaging effect on the whole structure of society and of the economy of the GDR. In 1961, the GDR government built the Berlin Wall and a barbed wire from the Baltic Sea to Czechoslovakia. Suddenly, families with roots in East and West were divided. From 1963 on, West Germans, nicknamed Westies, could visit family and friends and stay for some days with East Germans, nicknamed Ossis. But that was not possible vice versa. Normally, the border should protect the own citizens. This border had another function. It was directed against the own people, against the Ossis. Barbed wire and wall existed for 28 years. Still, people tried to flee the East. More than 1,000 women and men were shot dead from the own border police between 1961 and 1989. But 16 million human beings started to arrange their lives in the GDR. They were the followers of the socialist system that appeared in the first decade quite Stalinistic. There was a state security that controlled and observed almost everybody. There was a silent majority who did not forget that Russian tanks ended brutally a workers' uprising in 1953, so they did not dare to try it again. The economic system had workplaces for almost everyone. There was no unemployment. The payment was low. Nobody could get rich in the GDR. Under the shadows of an authoritarian quasi-one-party state, people lived and worked and married and divorced, normal family life. They went on holidays, but of course only to other East European countries under Soviet rule, Hungary and Czechoslovakia or Bulgaria. Theodor Adorno, a quite famous German social philosopher, once remarked, "There is no right life in the wrong one." But people in East Germany experienced good and bad days, solidarity with friends, common understanding, love and disappointment. There was right life in a wrong system, and there were, against all odds in the GDR, circle of friends who were not satisfied with a political system that tried to tell them what to think, what to do, how to behave. West Germany went another way. It became part of the so-called free world, a capitalistic society with free trade unions, different independent political parties, free elections, with great influence of big industry on government. After the disaster of Nazi Germany, the development of West Germany was often described as a kind of miracle. The Westies explored the world, they could get very rich, they even won World Soccer Championships. But with the beginning of the 1980s years, we saw the upcoming of a meaningful peace movement in both German states. A nuclear rearmament threatened the world, and there were protests against American rearmament as well as protests against Russian rearmament. Hundreds of thousands were on the streets in Bonn, West Germany, and hundreds in East Berlin, where it was difficult and dangerous to protest. Often Christians were the initiators of the protest. In the Federal Republic of Germany, the Protestant churches were part and parcel of the establishment. Due to a church tax system, the churches in the West were rich and had ways to influence politics, the public debate on moral and ethical questions. In the German Democratic Republic, the Protestant churches were poor, they had no influence at all. The political system declared atheism as his idol, but the churches were the only places who had a quite independence in their work within the churches with their meeting halls. So in these meeting halls, nonconformists, critical young people, intellectuals, the rest of a civil society, even if not being Christian, could come together, find a place. They could discuss their problems, and they were not forced to pray. Germany was divided, and the Protestant churches had to decide officially to end their united organization as well. Both were part of the ecumenical movement. The rich churches in the West Germany helped financially the poor sisters and brothers in the East a lot, but the Christian Westies envied the Christian Ossis. Why? Because in the circles of the World Council of Churches in Geneva, the Christians from the GDR were the darlings of the ecumenical movement for quite some day and some time. They were poor but sexy. They were to survive as Christians in the socialist, atheistic surrounding was very interesting. Their theologians were often creative and challenging. For Christians in the GDR, the ecumenical movement was the bridge to the world, a new horizon. On this stage, there was more than the East-West conflict at all. Around 1987, the new Soviet leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, started to explain his vision of glasnost and perestroika, an unexpected new openness and transparency. The satellite states of the Soviet Union get more responsibility for their own political agenda. The state of Hungary opened its border to the West. Overnight, thousands of most young families left their homes in the GDR and rushed to Hungary. They hoped for a better life in the West. They left behind their little cars, their friends, their workplace, everything for good. At the railway stations in the GDR, people were waiting for trains from Budapest and Prague into the West. They shouted, "We want out, we want out." And there were counter demonstrations of young people as well. They shouted, "We will stay, we will stay." They hoped they could help to change the GDR into a democratic socialist state, into a democratic alternative to the Federal Republic of Germany. A chaotic historical situation. This new movement to leave the GDR via Hungary, some observers describe as flight to paradise. It helped in a strange way to sharpen the inner GDR debate about the future of East Germany. Out of this melange, it is not surprising that some theologians, some Christian peace groups, some Protestant churches in East Germany played a decisive role in the peaceful revolution that led to the end of the GDR. I call this the Protestant Revolution. The first aim of the demonstrators was a better GDR, but then, with more and more demonstration in almost every city in the GDR, the unification of Germany came into sight. It did not happen through decisions on the world stage, not through majority vote. It happened from the grassroots, initiated by a minority. The protest marches against the GDR state in 1989 all started in Protestant churches. At the end, 80,000 peaceful demonstrators assembled in Leipzig. They shouted, "We are the people." We heard this sentence this morning as well. The Soviet Union did not intervene. The GDR regime collapsed and gave up. On November 9th, 1989, the wall in Berlin came down. Fireworks all over. The 8-year-old daughter of good friends was not in a festive mood. She told me, "I just lost my homeland." For millions of Aussies, the first free elections since 1933 came in March 1990. The winner of this election in March 1990 were not the brave new democratic movements who headed the Protestant Revolution, not the women and men who built alternative ecological, anti-nuclear peace groups, women groups. The winner were the big old parties from the West, who came like colonialists on the territories of East Germany, and they won it all. The former confirmed majority of the Aussies obviously thought the Westies knew better about money, about economy, about everything. It was not a flight to paradise, it was an expulsion into paradise, a woman journalist in East Berlin wrote. There was no border anymore between West and East Germany. As a journalist from the West, reporting about the GDR, I crossed this border almost every day, from 1982 up to the very end of the GDR in 1990. Paul Tillich, a German-American theologian and philosopher, one of my secret heroes, wrote, "The place of the boundary is the most fruitful place for knowledge. The boundary between homeland and foreign policy, boundary between homeland and foreign places, between religion and culture, between socialism and capitalism. Germany is one again since 28 years now, are we united? If you travel through East Germany today, you will find intact streets that due to socialism rotten old cities are rebuilt or reconstructed and in a wonderful shape. If you read the latest official report of the German government about the state of the Union, you will find description of positive tendencies. The standard of living in the East comes closer to the standard of living in the West. Payment for comparable jobs are not the same level, but they come nearer to each other. Unemployment in the East is higher than in the West. The transformation process is ongoing, but attractive and better paid jobs you still will find in the western part of Germany. There is a solidarity tax in favor of the development of the eastern territories, but it will end next year. Pension funds in the East still have to struggle to come to the same level as in the West. Once, we spoke about the GDR as the most industrialized state in Eastern Europe. But after the unification in 1990, the economic-wise strong companies from the West took over and destroyed industrial structures in the East. To rebuild them is the most important task today, but there are quite big obstacles. One of the problems: young, skilled people, more women than men, still leave the East, living standards, better jobs, a more relaxed atmosphere are an attractive alternative. There is no one company in East Germany noted in the DAX 30 index, and only one of the many of Germany's big industrial companies has its central office in East Germany. But I would like to leave these official data. Germany at least is united, isn't it? No, it is not. Germany is still divided. It is mentally divided. 40 years GDR system had an impact on people. Not only the impact of the kind of imprisonment, the smell of the country, the experience of solidarity with friends, the equal common poorness, the creative life in underground papers, poets and writers in the country who weren't allowed to publish their works, so they got famous by rumor, and their poets and poems or fiction were photocopied and distributed secretly. The dissident freedom in peace groups within the churches. Any tendency of nostalgia or myth-building about the GDR is heavily criticized. The GDR was dictatorial after all, but there is a kind of melancholia with people who did know that the West is not the paradise, who experience that foreigners, alias Westies, got around 80% of the top jobs in universities, business, state services after the unification. An exchange of elites, writers, artists, lost their importance. That left wounds, disappointments, depression, anger, fury. The former Russian zone, then GDR, is today the zone of vulnerability, as one East German political analyst stated. So some Aussies are thinking we have to tell the GDR story, our story in Europe, to avoid that our identity is destroyed. This, as a Westie, I really understand very well. But out of the massive disappointment about political developments, especially in childhood about the refugee politics in the central government, the high number of migrants coming to Germany, people in the East are turning away from the democratic parties and turn to the right and right extremists. That is quite dangerous. We know that this is a phenomenon in a lot of countries these days, but in Germany, with our history, in new nationalism, in new racism, in new anti-Semitism, as signs, as shadows of a new, old enemy within. So, to no surprise, to find out what really went wrong and how we could heal the wounds, there are voices in Germany who asked for truth and reconciliation process. Now the last short remark. This morning, I listened full of admiration to two keynote speeches. I heard about Clausewitz, I heard about Kant, and here I stay. An old German guy and quite humble. Thank you very much.
짧은 글인데 역사가들이 기록한 그 드라이한 역사 기록이 아니라 그 삶을 온몸으로 살아내신 그 역사의 증인의 생생한 목소리, 아픔, 또 기쁨, 이것이 다 녹아있는 하나의 서사를 들은 듯한 느낌을 받고 저는 정말 깊은 감동이 제 마음에 왔습니다. 평생 에큐메니칼 운동에 헌신하시고 또 평화를 위해서 온몸을 다 바친 그 분의 그 아우라가, 그 그런 것이 절절로 느껴지게 만드는 그런 발제여서 말씀하신 것 이상의 감동을 저희들에게 전달해 주신 것 같습니다. 다시 한번 진심으로 감사드립니다. 큰 박수로 저희들의 감사를 표하겠습니다.
게다가 시간까지 정확하게 지켜주셔서 제가 사회자로서 해야 될 수고를 덜어주셔서 또 한 가지 감사를 드립니다.
자, 이제 두 번째 발제자를 소개하겠습니다. 아일랜드에서 오셨고요. 존스턴 맥메스터 선생님이십니다. 소개가 나와 있겠지만 아일랜드 에큐메니컬 화해 프로그램 교육대학원의 전 학장을 역임하셨고 아일랜드 에큐메닉스 트리니티 대학의 겸임 조교수로 일하셨습니다. 이제 우리에게 종교 갈등과 화해, 치유를 위한 민간의 역할이라는 제목으로 말씀해 주시겠습니다. 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
Moderator, thank you for your welcome. It's a privilege to be part of this convention at a critical time in your own history, and for very different reasons. We're also at a fairly critical point in our peace process in Ireland, and I would think also perhaps a critical point emerging in the history of certainly the European Union. The context for this paper then is Ireland, and given the dominance of the Christian traditions in Ireland for centuries, and during the most recent phase of violent conflict, the paper will provide an overview of the role of churches in peace building. It is only now when the dominance of the Christian traditions in Ireland has receded, and Ireland has become much more secular, that interreligious dialogue between neighbour or world religions is beginning to take place. So interreligious experiences in peace building in Ireland tend to mean inter-church experiences. I want to look at the role of civic religion. From the 12th century, religion in Ireland has been closely connected with politics and power. The larger Irish churches have their foundations in two colonial invasions, a political invasion, and in the 18th century when Protestant ascendancy was at its height and penal laws repressed Catholics and Presbyterians. No Irish church has been politically neutral, nor held a politically neutral theology. 100 years ago, to be a Catholic was to be an Irish nationalist, wanting independence from the British Empire, and to be truly Irish. To be Protestant was to be unionist, wanting to stay in the union with Great Britain and the Empire, and to be British in identity. When the third attempt was made in 1912 by the British government to give Ireland home rule within the Empire, the Catholic Church was fully identified and supportive of home rule. The Protestant churches were totally opposed to home rule, and their leaders were among the first 7 signatories of a covenant, a solemn politico-religious document pledging the use of any means necessary to resist home rule. That meant guns and physical force. There were individual Catholics who were unionists and individual Protestants who were nationalists, but majorities and the institutions were politically aligned. This remained after the partition of Ireland in 1921 and has not changed much until relatively recently. Our religion can be described as civic religion, religion identified with oppositional politics, a religion of national flags and anthems, and a religion indistinguishable from a form of nationalism. Civic religion is not strong at building peace. I look at the conflict and ambivalent churches. The most recent phase of violence can be said to have begun on the 5th of October 1968, 50 years ago. It lasted for over 30 years. The 1960s were promising as community relations appeared appeared to be improving. Some positive initiatives were being taken, and it seemed that Northern Ireland could become a better place. It was a false dawn. Changes introduced were too little and too late. The problems and divisions between Catholics and Protestants, Unionists and Nationalists were too deep, profoundly structural and systemic. During the 1960s, the churches tried to influence change, at least at the relational level. Theological and ecumenical dialogue were increasing. Efforts at Protestant-Catholic reconciliation were being made. But the religious opposition was loud and threatening. Churches made significant statements. Opposition was expressed to all forms of injustice, inequality or discrimination based on creed, race or colour. In 1967, Protestant and Catholic church leaders published a joint New Year appeal for peace. The most significant statement of all came from the Presbyterian Church in Ireland. It urged Presbyterians to ask forgiveness for any attitudes and actions towards Catholics, and urged a resolution of conflicts of interests and loyalties and beliefs. That was in 1965, but it has never been repeated by the Presbyterian Church, nor forgiveness asked by any other church. When civil rights was organised in 1968, it was a largely Catholic movement, though Catholics and working class Protestants both needed civil rights. Civil rights marches were attacked violently by a Protestant police force. The Catholic Church came out in full support for civil rights and defended the organisation. The Protestant churches tended to see only civil unrest, and being pro-unionist one-party rule in Northern Ireland invoked Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 13, that the ruling powers were ordained of God and should therefore be obeyed. Civil rights was overtaken and eclipsed by violent forces, and entering the 1970s, Northern Ireland descended into a spiral of violence. The churches condemned violence, but were largely unheeded, and church leaders lost influence. The worst levels of killing took place in the early 1970s. There were several political initiatives, but none successful. The role of the churches during the 30-plus years of violent conflict can perhaps be summarised as follows. The denominations reflected their own political communities. The churches were strong on the politics of condemnation, but offered very little hard analysis of the violent conflict. They tended to be selective in their condemnation of killing, more of the other side, less of our own side. There was ambivalence towards violence. Relationships between churches and communities were ambiguous. There was no shared vision for society. There was no self-critical evaluation or self-criticism. Churches were strong, very strong, in pastoring victims of the violence, but tended to do so out of the political context. Churches were chaplains to their respective tribes. And throughout the violent years, the churches were in cultural and political captivity. As such, churches struggled to make peace. It has been argued that the churches kept the lid on the violence. Without the influence of the churches, the violence might have been much worse. It is difficult to measure this or quantify the church's influence. In 1968, they were caught out by violence. When the ceasefires came, though individual church persons were highly influential in initiating conversations and dialogue between protagonists and brokered peace deals, and were independent verifiers of decommissioning of weapons and explosives, the churches as institutions were caught out by peace. What is wrong with reconciliation? Many individuals from the Christian traditions have been involved in peacemaking and peace building. Some have initiated peace groups or organizations. Others have quietly worked away within communities to build bridges. And others have reached out in gestures and acts of forgiveness or healing. Church leaders have made joint statements for peace and reconciliation. And some have served on bodies dealing with decommissioning of weapons or dealing with the past, or how we might respond to victims of violence. There are untold stories. Some may never be told, and there are unsung heroes in a society where former combatants seem to want the glory of the peace process. But the churches still struggle with peace building and reconciliation. A problem churches now have is that in Ireland they are culturally disestablished, deprivileged, and living through the separation of church and state in Ireland. Ireland's version of Christendom has come to an end, and the churches struggle to work out a new relationship between church and state and faith and politics. They either retreat into evangelical piety or sacramental piety or take flight. The preoccupation with sexual and personal morality, some would say an obsession, and with family and church maintenance are all escape routes from the big public, social, economic, environmental, and social peace and reconciliation challenges. In all of this, there is a serious theological deficit. In recent years, the Irish School of Ecumenics carried out an extensive piece of research. Amongst other things, the research found that most church people believe that reconciliation is important. They hold it to be a significant part of the church's ministry. When asked to explain a little bit more about reconciliation, the majority of those who responded saw reconciliation in vertical terms, the reconciliation of the individual to God. While there was awareness of the horizontal dimension to reconciliation, it was interpersonal, reconciliation between two or more people. Now, there was nothing revelatory about this. It is and has been observable, recognizable as the prominent theology of reconciliation. We are, after all, people of the European Enlightenment, with its strong culture of individualism, which we have accepted as the interpretative lens for reading theology and the Bible. What that research makes clear is that we are so culturally captive to individualism with an interpersonal dimension that it is difficult to make the move from individual and interpersonal reconciliation to social reconciliation. What reconciliation means in the public square is generally very different and very difficult. We struggle with a public theology, and part of that is our struggle with social reconciliation, which has a very different dynamic to individual and interpersonal reconciliation. The research suggests that Irish church people, clergy and lay, are very strong on the individual's reconciliation with God and reconciliation between two or more people, but we have a major gap when it comes to social reconciliation. We either don't know how to bridge the gap, or we're not even aware that there is a gap to be bridged, or that social reconciliation is an essential ministry of the church. And this is part of a larger struggle to engage with public theology in a secular, pluralistic, democratic society where religious institutions have lost the public and political power that they once had, and certainly had in Ireland 100 years ago, during a very crucial decade of conflict and violence in 1912 to 1922. Social reconciliation is about addressing and working for the transformation of structural inequalities and power disparities. And this is our big gap and great struggle with reconciliation, not just in Ireland, but I suspect in other global conflict regions as well. Social reconciliation has this very different dynamic. And if we are intentionally to engage with it and move beyond our European Enlightenment individualism, then we need to do theology and read the Bible again for the first time. We will need a different hermeneutical key, a different reading strategy, a different interpretative method. And the key is there. It is a serious reading of the Bible, foundational documents, as a socio-political text. It can also be described as an awareness of the Bible, of Genesis to Revelation, as a book written in the shadow of empire, in the context of a succession of domination systems in which a minority faithful seek to live faithfully or ethically, or alternatively, in the face of structural inequalities and power disparities. Finally, being peace builders. If Irish churches want to make a significant contribution to peace building, they will need to develop together a theology of social reconciliation. To do that, they will need a different hermeneutical key, a different reading strategy when they engage with their foundational documents. The Hebrew Christian Bible has a socio-political foreground, and its pervasive context is a succession of dominant empires or superpowers. Political injustice, economic oppression, and military violence are on every page. Irish churches may need to read the Bible again for the first time. Only with this hermeneutic will they perhaps shape the theology and praxis of social reconciliation. Related to this, and utilizing the same hermeneutic, is a challenge to develop public theology. Public theology is applied social ethics in relation to the big public challenges and questions of our time. These are the social, political, economic, environmental, cultural issues, the issues of poverty, violence, war, injustice, globalization, geopolitics, and gender justice. Doing public theology is about applying social ethics to these and other big public, local, and global issues. Such public issues include peacemaking, peace building, social and integrated reconciliation, and just peace. The future for Irish churches is public theology, or there may be no future. It is a theology of the common good. It is a theology and a future that still waits to be embraced.
감사합니다. 두 번째 발제도 그냥 아카데믹 페이퍼를 읽는 것이 아니라 평생의 삶과 신학과 열정과 신념을 담아낸 그런 정말 영혼의 가장 깊은 곳에서 울려나오는 그런 목소리라는 느낌을 받고 다시 한번 제가 감동합니다. 이렇게 평생 동안 글과 말이 아니라 온몸으로 이 문제를 위해서 일하신 분들을 모시고 이런 세션의 사회를 볼 수 있다는 게, 또 이런 얘기를 들을 수 있다는 우리가 얼마나 정말 특권을 누리고 있는 것인지 다시 한번 저는 감사하게 됩니다. 유럽의 계몽주의 자식은 아니라고 할 수 있는 우리 한국에서도 아까 말씀하신 그 수평적 화해를 잃어버린 신앙인들이 많은 것 같습니다. 한국인들이 많이 본 영화 가운데 이창동 감독의 미랑이라고 하는 영화 나오지 않습니까? 남편을 잃어버린 아내가 자식과 함께 밀양에 내려갔는데 그 아이를 유치원 원장이 유괴해서 살해했고 나중에 감옥에 갔는데 그 괴로움을 달래려고 하는 그 전도연 씨가 조연했죠. 크리스찬이 되어서 용서하기로 마음먹고 감옥에 찾아가 첫 연애하는데 그 구멍 뚫린 유리 앞으로 나오는 그 유괴범이 나와서 너무도 평화로운 얼굴로 자매님, 저는 이 안에서 하나님의 용서를 다 받았으니 걱정하지 마시라고, 저는 하나님의 용서를 다 받았다라고 말하는 순간 그 여배우는 절망하고 하나님 앞에 저항하는데, 그것도 이 수평적인 화해의 시간을 잃어버린 한국교회를 지지하는 영화가 우리에도 있었습니다만, 말씀하시는 것과 또 저희 한국적 헌신이 잘 이어졌고, 공공신학이 우리의 미래, 공동의 선을 만들어내는 신학이 우리의 미래라고 하시는 말씀 다시 한번 감명 깊게 들었습니다. 진심으로 감사드립니다. 한 번 더 큰 박수로 감사를 표하겠습니다.
또 두 번째 감사는 첫 번째 스피커와 마찬가지로 시간을 역시 또 5분이나 남겨주셔서 저희들이 이따가
더 여유로운 마음을 가지고 토론할 수 있도록 시간도 정확히 지켜주신 것에 대해서 다시 한번 진심으로 감사의 말씀드립니다. 그럼 지금부터 10분 동안 잠시 일어나셔서 걷기도 하시고
커피도 드시고 5분 땡겨서 3시 5분에 세 번째 스피커의 말씀 듣도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.